Hi everyone, it's Sophie from the Niche Partnership. Today I'm going to show you some of the common mistakes that people make when writing their CV. So I have a CV here. Joe Blogs has kindly lent me his CV for the purpose of this video, and I've highlighted a few of the common mistakes that people make. So let's take a look. The first thing I've highlighted is Joe's name. Not that there's anything wrong with the name Joe Blogs, but purely because I can see here that Joe is ACCA qualified. And I'd always recommend including your letters that you've achieved after your name. You want those achievements to be really visible and jump out of the page at the reader. Gaining a qualification is a great achievement, so you should shout about it. The next thing I've highlighted is Joe's address. Reason being is that you simply don't need to include your full address. You can just include your town, your city, and part of your postcode. That is more than sufficient. Joe's then included his contact details, his telephone number, email address, and LinkedIn URL. I've not highlighted this because this is great. This is just the level of contact details that we need. And the fact that he's included his LinkedIn URL gets extra brownie points for that, because a lot of people forget to do that. And let's face it, the first thing that the hiring manager or the recruiter is going to do when they get your CV is look you up on LinkedIn. So you must have a profile on there. It must be populated and be fully complete. And it's always a good idea just to direct people straight to that so they can take a look. The next thing is Joe's profile. I've highlighted this because, quite frankly, it is boring. And secondly, it's just a series of statements or claims that Joe is making. I'm hardworking. I am a sociable person. I am always willing to learn. Yeah, it's waffle, and it doesn't tell us anything about Joe's technical capability or really even his soft skills. So what I would always suggest with this is consider these three things. Your profile should be saying who you are, what you do, and why you are good at it. So think about including some of your technical skills, even references to perhaps projects you've worked on or industries you've worked in, to really back that up, and then include some of the softer skills that you have too. But try not to just make it generic and waffly. Try and make it unique to you and genuine to you. The next thing is Joe's educational details here. Now, I've not highlighted this because I do think this is laid out very well. You've got your dates and your qualifications all very neatly and organized, and you have the most recent qualification at the top, which is exactly where it should be. The only note that I would say here is that if you are more experienced, if you are perhaps applying for a senior or director level position, you may wish to include your education details further down in your CV. And you may wish to use this section here for your key competencies and some of your key achievements. We'll talk about key achievements more in just a second, but it's just a note that actually there's two schools of thought with that. You can either have your education right at the top or right at the bottom. It's depending on you and your particular situation. I've highlighted a bit of empty space here, and the reason is that I believe that here Joe should have included details of the systems that he's worked on and the experience he has within Microsoft Office packages, etc. This is very specific, I would say, to the industry, the sector that we recruit for, i.e. accountancy and finance. It's very relevant to know what systems you've used, if you're confident in using Excel, for example, and all of that should be listed on your CV. Two reasons. One, because we need to know it, and two, because if you're applying to a role where you're uploading your CV to a portal system or online, chances are that will be a system that can track for keywords. It can pull out buzzwords, and the hiring manager can see actually you have a certain number of keywords that they're looking for. You must be a good match. So include it, because why wouldn't you? And two, because it might help you get through some of those ATS systems, those applicant tracking systems. Next thing is Joe's employment history. I've not highlighted this because I think this is actually laid out pretty well. He's got his dates of employment at the top, where he worked, and his job title. He then has a list of duties and responsibilities. But there's something missing here, and that is his key achievements. I cannot stress this enough, that key achievements are so important in your CV. I've mentioned that you may wish to include these at the top of your CV, particularly if you're quite experienced or senior in your position. But if you don't wish to do that, you can definitely include them underneath each of your roles, because if you don't, you're literally just regurgitating your job description. Everybody knows, or the person reading the CV is likely to know what an accounts assistant does. They're going to know that they do these things, but what they don't know is why you're good at that job. And that comes from your key achievements. Your key achievements should include tangible data. They should demonstrate good return on investment, and they should tell the hiring manager why they should hire you and not the other candidate who submitted their CV. Or in this market, why there might be many other candidates submitting their CV and why they should only hire you. So really, really important point there. Just skipping past the rest of this employment history, we come to this section here. And the reason this is highlighted is it's because it's in a different font. Sounds so basic, right? But a lot of people forget to proofread their CV, even at senior level. So please, please, please make sure that you proofread your CV or get somebody else to proofread it for you. Mistakes like this can be costly and they're so easy to avoid, particularly in accountancy and finance. We look for great attention to detail or accuracy. This does not screen that. So consider that when you're writing your CV. And then finally, towards the end of Joe's CV here, I've highlighted his interests and hobbies. One, again, because they're boring. I enjoy spending time with my family and reading. Okay, most people do. Think about this and think about something that is unique to you, that really tells the reader who you are as a person. Don't overthink it. A lot of people think that they can't write certain things. The only main things I would avoid, and this is again a big point here, avoid anything to do with politics, religion, etc. Anything that can create controversy or debate, I suppose, because even though that might be your beliefs and your interests, etc., you don't really want to open yourself up to those kind of debates early on. You simply want to tell the reader a bit about who you are. So really consider that when you're writing your interests and hobbies. Please don't just write you enjoy long walks on the beach. And then finally, Joe's references. So I've highlighted these because they don't need to be there. Do not include your references on your CV. Simply just write references available upon request. Why? Because you don't need to. It's a waste of your time and energy and a waste of you asking those people, is it okay if I include you? These details can be provided should you secure the position. If you're working with an agency, they'll ask you for these up front, more than likely. And of course, you would provide them to them directly, but you don't need to include it on your CV itself. One little sneaky inside bit of info here is that if you do include that and you're submitting a CV to multiple agencies, the chances are that one of those agencies might use your references as a business development tool. They might call those references, take your references without your permission, and even use it as a way to generate new business and essentially try and secure new roles off the back of the information you have provided. You don't need to do it. You don't need to give that information out. So just leave it off. Simple as that. So I'm going to very quickly look over the CV as it should be. We've looked at the not so great version. Let's have a look at the version as an ideal version, I suppose. So Joe Bloggs ACCA, he's got his letters after his name. He's reduced his address down to town and UK. You could include part of your postcode, as I mentioned. He has his contact details as per the previous CV as well. His profile looks far better. We're talking about industry sectors he's worked in. We're talking about soft skills, but we're also talking about technical skills as well, being able to build strong relationships with stakeholders. We're talking about things that are real and that matter to this position that he's applying for. Also, again, highlighted his qualification there straight away. That also, going back to the point about applicant tracking systems, is great to include that as a more of a keyword, a buzzword for people to instantly see, yes, you're a good match for this role. The other thing with the profile is that I've now changed this profile to be in third person. You'll notice that on the previous CV, it was I am. This is now in third person. It gives a far more professional tone, and it therefore isn't just a series of claims that you are making. It's a description of you as an individual. The education, it remains the same. I've left this at the top, but as I mentioned, you could move this to the bottom if you'd like to, but we've added the systems in here. This is really important, particularly for our sector, but I'm sure for many other sectors as well. Be sure to include these systems. Think back, what have you worked on? What have you done? including or not including that buzzword could be the difference between you getting into the interview seat or not. Employment history, again, the layout we've kept the same. I think the format was very good. We've just added in these key achievements. So Joe has decided to include his key achievements under each role, which for somebody at his level, for the kind of role that he's applying to, is probably most appropriate. But as I say, you can play around with that. The main thing is include facts, figures, data, things that people can actually see as evidence of why that is an achievement and what you have delivered for that business. Always consider that when you're writing key achievements. And then moving down, we've changed the font here. We're back to a consistent format where everything is neat and tidy. And the interests and hobbies have been padded out a little bit as well. And they're unique to Joe. They're not generic. It's not waffle. It's something that he sat and thought about how he would describe himself. And it reads far better and gives way more insight into the person behind the CV. And then finally, references available upon request for all of the reasons that I just mentioned. So there it is, a few very quick mistakes that people make when writing their CV. We've got loads more information on this. All of this month, we are offering you free CV assessments to get your job search, or your 2022 job search off to a good start. So if you have any more questions, having viewed this video, if you'd like any more support, we are always happy to help. Thank you. Have a good day.